Coming up, the Bureau of Indian Affairs is being accused of assault and abuse. We'll hear about the case of Alyssa Yellowbird Chase. Plus, we meet a Native woman paving her path in the STEM field and an update on tribal consultation. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University is honored to be a supporter of Indian Country Today. Working with award-winning professors, Cronkite students learn news reporting, social media, shooting and editing videos, and producing content for communications industries. Cronkite's 15 professional programs give students the opportunity to cover critical issues throughout the U.S. and beyond. Learn more at cronkite.asu.edu.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Amarawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. We start in Los Angeles, California, where the city council has installed a new president. On Tuesday, Paul Krikorian was selected to lead the body after a week of scandal and public outrage. It comes as former council president Nury Martinez resigned. A leaked recording of Martinez included racist comments she made almost a year ago. After Martinez resigned, that meant the city council's first ever Native member stepped up to help address the issue. Mitch O'Farrell, a citizen of the Wyandot Nation of Oklahoma, was the acting president for a few days. It was O'Farrell who removed the other two council members involved in the incidents from their committee chairmanships.
Who among us is perfect? Who among us has, never made a mistake or said something they regret? But I will say this. I do not think that conversation could have happened in this building because it would have not been tolerated.
Those city council members involved have not yet resigned from their positions, even though many are pushing them to do so. O'Farrell shared that some of the comments were not only anti-African American, but also anti-Indigenous. In an interview with Spectrum News, O'Farrell said that his job now is to help the city get through this, quote, terrible moment, and that the people of Los Angeles deserve better. Well, a groundbreaking First Nations filmmaker has died at the age of 46. Fans of horror and Indigenous films were shocked and saddened by the sudden passing of Mi'kmaq filmmaker Jeff Barnaby. The late director is known for his two unforgettable feature films, Rhymes for Young Gulls and Blood Quantum. In both films, Barnaby used the tools and wording of the horror genre to tell the true story of colonization and contemporary racism. Soon after the news of the director's passing became public, breakout star of Reservation Dogs, Devery Jacobs, posted to Twitter, saying in part, "He not only took a chance on me, but fought relentlessly to cast me in his debut feature, Rhymes for Young Gulls, my first leading role." The award-winning filmmaker is survived by his wife, Sarah Del Sarande, and son, Miles. Barnaby died in Montreal after a year-long battle with cancer, according to his publicist. No memorial details have been released. Mexico has become a deadly place for land and water protectors, and the Yaqui people of northern Mexico have been especially hit hard by these attacks. Here's ICT's Pacey Smith-Garcia with the story.
The families of indigenous land defenders in Mexico are speaking out about the cause of death for their loved ones. It comes after the country was named the deadliest place in the world for environmental activists. Data from 2021 shows 54 Mexican activists who were outspoken about the water and pipelines were killed. That number is compared to 33 land defenders in Colombia and 26 in Brazil who were killed. The data is according to watchdog organization Global Witness. The indigenous Yaqui people have been hit particularly hard by the violence. Many land defenders are striving to keep a hold of the water in the Gila River, which is one half owned by the tribe. Tomas Rojo and Luis Urbano were both killed last year. Their deaths have left behind heartbreak. Tomas's father, Ganral Rojo, spoke with great sadness about his son.
There are very difficult moments. I know now why someone could take their own life. This is something I don't desire to no one, even to my worst enemy. It's bad, very sad. I compare it to clowns, how they go on with the show without even knowing the pain he bears inside.
These deaths have been ruled as the fault of a drug gang and a conflict at a construction site, but many from the tribe do not believe these theories. Rojo led a series of demonstrations, including a blockade of the state's main highway to protest the building of the pipeline. His loved ones say they believe these deaths are the fault of powerful interest groups who would profit from the kind of development they were hoping to conduct. Marta Estrella, Luis's widow, explained how much her husband did to protect water rights.
He was passionate. He loved being in the struggle. He went places, gave conferences. He was always moving, active. He never left anybody alone, neither Thomas nor the Yaqui authorities. He was there until he could, doing what he had to do by helping.
The Yaqui people do not seem deterred from this fight. Fellow land defender Cesar Costa explained.
The Yaqui tribe was never defeated and isn't going to be defeated now. Tomas and Luis are an example to follow. They taught us not to abandon the struggle, our land, our water, our mountains which can't speak. The water doesn't speak. The rock doesn't speak. The mountains don't speak. The seed doesn't speak. But we do speak. And we want to keep speaking for them.
In Phoenix, Arizona, Pacey Smith-Garcia, ICT News.
Now to New Zealand, where an Alaska Native athlete is competing in the world's biggest stage for women's rugby. Catherine Treader, who is a Nupiaq, is one of 32 athletes representing Team USA at this year's Rugby World Cup. Treader plays the position of hooker and played collegiately at Stanford University. Growing up, she played multiple sports, even winning first place in the Alaska State Championship for wrestling. Treader plays for the club Beantown RFC in Boston and made her first Team USA debut in 2019 in San Diego. Treader and her team will face off against Team Canada on Saturday, October 22nd for a spot in the quarterfinals. You can watch that game live on the streaming network Peacock. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Robin Villarreal is the Chief Information Officer at Gila River Hotels and Casinos in Chandler, Arizona. She is one of few Native women working in the STEM fields. Robin didn't begin her career there, though. Instead, she worked her way up from the bottom, starting out as a food court worker back in the 90s. ICT reporter and producer Caitlin Onawa-Boycell sat down with Robin to learn more about her story. Take a look.
Welcome, Robin. So how did all of this start?
So this started 27 years ago, as I stated. I was coming here as a summertime job. I was actually on the path to become a nurse. And coming here, I didn't realize that our tribe had a casino for the first year. It started in '94. So by the time I got here, it was 1995. And I started out in food and beverage. There was a buffet here that wasn't built because the sprung wasn't built yet. So I was at the little Wild Horse or Lone Butte Casino. I started there in food and beverage and just kind of worked my way through the ranks. Once the buffet opened, the executive chef for the kitchen noticed me and said, "Would you be my administrative assistant?" And I was like, "Okay, sure, I can do that. I don't know how to type memos or anything." He's like, you'll learn, you'll get it. And I'm like, okay. So I eventually did that, and probably maybe a year into it, I had an issue with my PC. And so I called the IT department and said, hey, my disk is stuck in my A drive. And they were like, really? They came over, and sure enough, it was. And a couple of days later, they gave me a call and said, we're looking for a technician position. Would you be interested? And I was like, I don't know anything about IT. They're like, you know more than you think you do. And so I did that. My first week, unfortunately, I blew up my PC. I blew up the motherboard. It was horrible smell for days. And a couple of days after that, they threw me in a little room, probably like this, with computer parts. At the time, computers didn't come pre-built. We had to piece part everything together, from the motherboard to the case to the CPU to the memory, like you name it. So they put me in this little room and said, you know, we need 8 PCs built. We'll pick you up at lunch. Here's a landline phone. They didn't give me the extension to their office number. So here I am, first week in IT, and I break down. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? I can't do this. What am I doing? What did I get myself into? And something just came to me and said, Robin, you can't fail. You have to figure this out. You can figure this out. I figured it out. Lunchtime came, I had 4 PCs built. And I thought, okay, that was the most challenging time ever, to be stuck in a little room and not have anyone really help you. We didn't have the internet. I mean, we did, but it was like dial-up. So I didn't have any tools to help me but what I was taught a couple of days prior to. And so eventually my career throughout that, the 2 that hired me, they mentored me and they taught me everything I knew.
So what are some of the pressures of this job?
Well, I would say the pressures of this job, working in gaming, it's very fast-paced, especially for Gila River, where, you know, we really value being first to market for everything. So what that entails for the IT department is we have to be innovative. We have to be ready for the visionaries to say, hey, this is the path that we're going to take. And me and my team have to be ready to say, okay, we got this set up for you, or, you know, we need room to grow, so we're not going to be able to give you that technology. But being in the forefront and being able to lay that path for them, that is probably the most important. So I would say anticipating what our visionaries, what the people like our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Strafella, Dominic Orozco, who's our president, you know, they are really innovative as far as their vision goes and their goals and their dreams, and making that happen and making it come to reality is huge. You walked into this area and you saw a really big media screen. That was Mr. Manuel's dream. Making that work, it was a feat. It was challenging. It was a lot of man hours put into work, but we made it happen. So those types of things, you don't really get to see the inner workings of the details that go into all the technology here. Even this expansion of the hotel, a lot of technology. So our 4th site is going to have even more technology, which is something I'm very proud to say that, you know, I had a piece in that. So I would say anticipating what our visionaries are, people that want to push it to the next level.
And how did you overcome all of these challenges?
That's the only way. There's no we can't. There's no that can't happen. That is not a vocabulary word in the IT department. It's like, we'll see what we can do to make it happen. And that's what we do.
What an inspiring story. That was ICT's Caitlin Onawa-Boycell interviewing Robin Villarreal. We'll be right back. The American Civil Liberties Union of North Dakota is accusing the Bureau of Indian Affairs of assault and abuse against a Native woman. Lissa Yellowbird Chase says she was in the process of helping another woman when she was arrested in 2021. Yellowbird Chase, who is a citizen of the Mandan Hidatsa Arikara Nation, helped start Saanich Scouts in 2013. The organization works on cases of missing and murdered Indigenous people. Now, the ACLU of North Dakota and the firm Nichols Castor filed the complaint in federal court in the District of North Dakota. Joining us today to talk about this case is Stephanie Amiot. She's the legal director for the ACLU in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me.
So start us off by telling us what happened that led to this legal complaint.
Well, as you had indicated, our client, Lissa Yellow Birdchase, had been working with her organizations, Sunish Scouts, and had just rescued a woman from sex trafficking when she was pulled over. And eventually, her and the victim that she had rescued were arrested and transferred to the Standing Rock BIA facility in North Dakota. There, she experienced some very horrific abuse and a situation that should not have happened.
Are you able to outline the kinds of abuse that happened?
Absolutely. As we have alleged in the complaint, Lissa was inappropriately searched in an area by the BIA officers, which included male officers who were present. She was made to strip in that area, which is entirely against the BIA's own policy and handbook. Additionally, she was subjected to some very horrific conditions in the jail cells that she was placed in, and she was subjected to a sexual assault. She had some pretty demeaning and degrading things happen to her at the facility, and that's what led to this lawsuit.
Your complaint actually says the officers broke the Federal Tort Claims Act. So can you explain what that is and what it allows victims to do in such a case?
Yes, I can. So the Federal Tort Claims Act is a federal law that allows private citizens to bring an action for personal injuries, for damages, for loss of property that occurred as a result of federal employees' behavior. And that's what we pled in this complaint. And that's what Lissa is bringing her claim under against the BIA.
And according to your news release, you say that this case shows how the local law enforcement racially profiles Native people. Do you have more cases like this one?
We don't have any currently pending in North Dakota specifically, but the ACLU has handled quite a few cases regarding that have involved racial profiling of Indigenous people, Black and brown people, people of color. It's something that's incredibly common in the United States, and it's something that happened to Lissa when she was initially pulled over in Corson County, South Dakota.
And what is the Bureau of Indian Affairs saying in this case? Like, what is their side of the story?
We haven't heard back from them yet. We do know that they have been served with the complaint at the United States Attorney General's office. We haven't received any denial from the BIA. We haven't received an answer to the complaint yet from the United States government. We do know that Lissa initially presented her claim to the United States, and they essentially denied it without much of an explanation at all.
And Lissa actually says at this point she wants to hold the BIA accountable. What does she feel like justice looks like for her?
For Lissa specifically, she has indicated in the complaint that we have filed that she's seeking, compensatory damages for severe emotional and physical distress that she suffered. She is seeking compensation for the loss of her property, which included money and prescription medication that was not returned to her. She really also, through the filing of this lawsuit, wants the public to know that this happened to her. She wants to make sure that there is awareness being raised regarding what happened to her so that other women who have encountered similar experiences at the Standing Rock facility can come forward and tell their stories.
Stephanie, we know that lawsuits don't happen, or they're not very quick to come to a resolution. Can you maybe tell us what to expect next, or break down a timeline of what we could expect to see?
It's difficult to put a timeline on the lawsuit. What we expect to happen next is to have the United States government file an answer to the complaint. And after that, the court will likely enter specific deadlines for the parties to meet. There will be opportunities for depositions to be taken. There may be some pretrial motions that are filed by either us or the government. So it really depends upon what comes out, I think, in discovery and the depositions that will govern the timeline.
Well, Stephanie, we'll continue following. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A tribe in Utah criticized the White House for not adequately consulting with its leaders ahead of the creation of a national monument on ancestral lands in Colorado. However, representatives from the other two tribes in Colorado, the Southern Ute and the Ute Mountain Ute, say they were on board with the plan. This brings us to our topic today, the importance of tribal consultation. John Tasuda is an ICT regular contributor and a partner with Navigators Global, and he joins us again today. Hi, John.
Good day. Good to see you again. Consultation is always a great topic to talk about.
It is. Let's just dive right in here. I mean, the Ute Indian tribe from Utah objected to the designation of Camp Hale. This seems like a really tricky situation for the Biden administration and the Department of Interior to navigate.
Well, yes. Consultation can often be tricky when you're dealing with an area that is not on a particular reservation, but that has ties to a number of tribes. One of the issues that commonly trips up the United States, the different agencies and departments when trying to meet their consultation requirements is reaching out to all the tribes that are affected. It's not clear to me, I haven't seen that there was no attempt to contact the Utah Utes, who I believe are the ones making the complaint here. Certainly, the Ute tribes in Colorado were contacted, and as they've said, they felt like they were adequately consulted and they were on board with the process that led to the announcement of the monument. But again, that area was indigenous to all the Ute people, and if there was not adequate consultation with the Ute tribe in Utah, that certainly would have been an oversight by the Biden administration.
I want to switch to another really important topic to Indian country, and that's repatriation. The Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act is now under review, and the Department of the Interior consulted with 71 tribes and Native Hawaiian organizations for a draft proposal of this. Maybe talk about that.
Well, that steps even into it a little bit further. The Native American Graves and Repatriation Act deals with both personal items, funerary items, and human remains. So it's often very, very sensitive to ancestors of those whose human remains are being handled. For the tribe and even for individuals, objects of cultural patrimony and religious import have to be dealt with sometimes by very specific procedures. So it's a very delicate matter, and I'm actually surprised that the number was not greater than 70 tribes and organizations that were consulted. If we're talking about a nationwide, look at the regulations, and I'm guessing that there will be further consultation. And remember that with all of these things, when you change the regulations, after you've had the tribal consultation, you have the regulatory process to get through with amending the regulations, which takes a lot more additional time and effort, public notice, comment, etc.
On Tuesday, we had Senate Indian Affairs Chairman Brian Schatz on the show to talk about, the work that he's doing in his committee. And he actually brought up tribal consultation, meaning more to him than checking a box. It meant having really deep conversations. But I want to ask you, John, what does good tribal consultation look like?
Well, unfortunately, it's something that is difficult to quantify, and it's often in the eye of the beholder. Where I think you find and you're told, well, that was good consultation. I don't know if anybody has ever said perfect consultation, but good consultation is where the quality of the consultation is to the satisfaction of the tribes that are affected, the communities that are involved, as opposed to the quantity of consultation. But again, when agencies are trying to work their way through the requirements of laws and regulations, they have timelines they have to meet under those laws as well. So they often try to squeeze in as many consultations as they can to fit within those timeframes and still get through their regulatory process, which can lead to quantification, not quality of consultation.
John Tasuda, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.